Well guys, this is the video. I didn't really want to make this video, but I feel like it's time to finally address things. One of the main reasons why I started posting videos is because I felt like there were certain topics that a lot of other content creators were neglecting to mention. So I don't want to just keep making videos when I feel like there isn't anything that I can add from a different perspective. However, when it comes to the topic of Genshin Impact versus Wuthering Waves, I want to give my own take on this forced feud between the two games. The major thing I want to say about Wuthering Waves is I've been here before. This isn't my first rodeo. What I mean by that is the overall core gameplay of Wuthering Waves is literally the same thing as Genshin Impact. Now I know this statement is going to upset a lot of you, but hear me out for a minute here. Yes, they've given us more free rewards due to compensation of a buggy launch and CN being upset. The combat is different, of course, although I would argue the combat itself isn't groundbreaking in its design, and a lot of the current difficulty has to do with us being in the early game and not having maxed out characters. But what I'm talking about is the core gameplay. Explore world, do story quest, fight some bosses, wait for stamina to regenerate, and deal with RNG for the gearing system. All the new terminology in Wuthering Waves for different movesets, abilities, locations, etc. is not going to blind me from what is essentially the same loop of gameplay as Genshin Impact for the past 4 years. Tenha nearly got cancelled for this take he had during one of the closed beta tests for the game, but I totally understand where he's coming from with this take. One major difference that Wuthering Waves has is the ecosystem that allows players to grind away for hours on end and search to their heart's content for main stat pieces and onset bonuses. But much of this system is redundant, especially for the free-to-play player or even the low spender, I would argue. Without a steady income of Echo XP and tuners, the Echo grind is essentially pointless for you. Whales, specifically whales with enough time on their hands to grind out main stat Echo pieces, are the ones that truly benefit the most from this system. They can full refresh their stamina every single day and get a decent amount of Echo XP and tuner income, so to speak. I really feel like this system is meant for whales and whales only, even more so than Genshin's artifact system. And it's not just me, but I feel like some other content creators are starting to catch on and realize just how tedious this ecosystem truly is. And why is it that Genshin Impact is the only one that allows an offset piece still? Why is it that HSR and Wuthering Waves don't allow for off pieces for onset bonuses? Allowing for an off piece puts way less stress on gearing up characters, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out why that is. Look, farming for 10 to 15 minutes in Genshin for artifacts and then logging out because you finished all the other content in the game doesn't feel that great. I understand that. But at the same time, I didn't ask to have a system that wants us to sit there for hours on end just to search for an onset piece and still be time gated due to not having enough XP to level said piece. 10 minutes of grinding versus 6 hours of grinding. Why can't these games meet in the middle? Why can't we have 30 to 40 minutes of non-optional content where we level up our characters and make real progress on our account, and then another hour or so of something optional the players can grind for in their own time? But no, it seems like forcing time gates is all these games want to do. You can say my gripe is with the gacha genre itself then, and you may be correct. But if that's the case, then why are people praising Wuthering Waves while a lot of the core gameplay mimics Genshin? I remember a lot of people scolding Genshin for it having massive amounts of exploration content. And yeah, you can scale walls faster in Wuthering Waves, but I don't see how that really matters when the core gameplay of exploring is still the same thing. You still run around fighting easy mobs, solving easy puzzles, and picking up chests. Nothing is truly different here. So I fail to see why Wuthering Waves is getting praised for having exploration content, while Genshin is getting scolded for having the exact same thing. I don't really feel the need of getting into the minor details, like the grappling hook still can only be used at specific points for full effect, and the cliffs in Wuthering Waves are pretty high, So are you really saving time by being able to run up these gigantic walls anyways? All these minor details detract from the main point, which is the core gameplay. Now you might ask, well, what about the combat? The combat in Wuthering Waves is so beyond anything we've ever seen and is so fun that it truly demolishes Genshin Impact into the ground, right? I mean, not really. The combat is enjoyable and I've had my fun with it, but there's not anything mind-blowing about Wuthering Waves' combat system. Parry and dodge timing isn't that difficult to pull off, and there's a lot of slowdown on dodges, so it's fairly forgiving in that aspect. Certain characters feel more faceful to play than others, and are easier to pull off parries with, like Jian. Other characters still have issues, and I wonder why they even exist. Alto and Yuanwu, for example. These characters barely contribute damage or anything of value to the team, and I feel like they're just meant to have flashy animations, but are really a waste of a team slot due to how little damage or team buffs they contribute. Most difficult fights in the game are still on a timer, just like Genshin. So regardless of how well you play, if you don't have enough damage, then you can't clear it in time. Not to mention that some of the bosses still have annoying mechanics that make them run away from you or stay outside attack range all while the timer is ticking down. Just like the Setek Winut or some other bosses in Genshin as well also had this annoyance. Essentially, you're discarding the elemental reaction system for the parry and intro and outro system that Wuthering Waves has. Like I said, the combat is enjoyable and it has its moments where it feels fun to execute. All I'm saying is that I don't think it warrants being praised as highly as some people might be proclaiming. And I don't think the combat itself makes up for all the other lackluster things the game presents to us. The story is subpar, and no, one combat sequence at the end of the main story does not make up for the previous 5 or so hours of exposition and lore dumps that the writer seems to think is perfectly okay to batter down the audience with, when we're not even invested into the characters or the world you suddenly dropped us in. Oh, and the rover is literally Jesus Christ with amnesia.
Because of amnesia.
The music is below average, which is a shame because PGR at least had a decent electronic soundtrack. So you wonder what happened to Wuthering Waves soundtrack, like literally, where did it go? A lot of the English voice acting was just straight up phoned in, and the translation errors, although some of them got fixed, you could really tell that they rushed this game out the door. And I think a lot of the freebies we got were pre-planned. They knew this game was going to be pushed out the door with a lot of bugs and other issues, and they prepared beforehand to give us compensation in the form of a bunch of free rolls and other free resources, which, to be honest, that's a smart PR move. The lower pity for 5 stars is nice and all, but we don't really know what the future free-to-play experience is going to be like when it comes to the amount of free pulls we're going to be getting, alongside how often Wuthering Waves is going to be releasing new units for us to pull on. We could experience a pull drought for free-to-play players. They've been generous with their free pulls at the launch of the game, but we don't know how much more generous they will remain when it comes to the long term for this game. The difference between the games when it comes to regards to the weapon banner? Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Wuthering Waves' weapon banner is factually superior. Genshin's weapon banner is far too punishing, and I would say on this aspect alone, Wuthering Waves is the clear-cut winner here. But guys, I've had some dreams, so to speak, of future character weapons, and it looks like they could be hiding good main stat increases behind weapon refinements. So I wouldn't be too invested into thinking that they won't just make pulling for more copies of weapons even more valuable for whales in Wuthering Waves. And with that being said, I want to go over a short list of problems that the game really needs to address. First of all, every time you log in, you have to log in manually, which is annoying. Not to mention the game does not have two-factor authentication yet. The Echo Merge system cannot target a specific set, unlike Genshin where Strongbox allows you to target which set you want. Synthesizing weapon experience is a weekly cooldown. where Genshin's weapon crystal forging is a daily cooldown. We're getting all these free standard pulls, but remember, we're still not getting any pulls for ascending characters, which Genshin and HSR both have. And last but not least, I'm gonna say it. Echo grinding is tedious, busy work, and it's not what I signed up for. A major reason why Genshin Impact got hated on for years and years on end is because it lacked combat-focused endgame content. And mindlessly echo grinding for hours on end, fighting easy mob after easy mob in Wuthering Waves, is a majority of what you do in this game. This is not it. It's boring, and it's just a way to force player engagement. A few non-repeatable hologram bosses is not going to make up for the fact that this game has issues, and much of the gameplay loop is a tedious grind lumped together with RNG stat fishing and time-gated progression sprinkled on top. The final point I want to make here is, I don't have to pick a side when it comes to some war between video games, which I feel like gacha players exacerbate more than any other gaming community. If you like battle royale games, why not just play both PUBG and Fortnite? If you like team-based shooter games, why not play both Overwatch and Valorant? Sure, you can say some aspects of either game may be better or worse than the other, but does it necessitate the need for an all-out war between the same genre of game? No, it doesn't. The only people pushing for this kind of war is Tectone, the content creators that worship him, and his audience. For some reason, they seem to think talking about the same topic over and over again is somehow entertainment. Like, how many times can you stand to watch a video about how Genshin is bad? Seriously. Anyways, most of these content creators are now focused on other drama that really have next to nothing to do with the games they're playing. They're more interested in emotionally riling up their audience and pretending like what video game you choose to play defines who you are as a person, or some crazy nonsense narrative that they perpetuate. And also, this narrative going around that somehow Wuthering Waves is going to push Genshin to be a better game because it's going to encourage competition, well, to that I say, I don't think Genshin cares about competition. Honestly, I don't really think Hoyoverse as a whole cares about competition in general. But look, that's a side tangent that I won't get into right now. At the end of the day, if you like these style of games, open world, gacha, combat games, you could play both. If you don't have the time to play both games, then pick whichever suits you better. It's really that simple. There's no need to get into a fit of rage when someone tells you that they still enjoy playing Genshin Impact, and vice versa. You can call me a fencer all you want, but I'm not going to take a video game war seriously. Just enjoy the video game you want and stop harassing people online for their tastes in video games. I'll continue to play Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves simultaneously for the time being, and I hope Kuro Games can address a lot of the issues that are still present. For now, we'll just have to wait and see. And with that, if you made it this far, thank you for watching the video, and just go enjoy whichever game you want, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.
My heart belongs to me. You're never gonna let me go, and I will never let you